Heraclitus was born at Ephesus, apparently from a noble family connected with his religious rites, but early retired from their social position and devoted himself to study and the development of his philosophical ideas. There are no specific dates to attach to his life, but he must have flourished about somewhere about 500 before Christ. He is said to have written his thoughts out in a prose document, a very early use of prose for philosophy, of which only fragmentary quotations have survived as citations from later authors over the next 1500 years. There is almost nothing more which we know about Heraclitus' personal life and identity. This paper contains all the fragments which can authoritatively be ascribed to Heraclitus, following the listing in Diels Krans, die Fragments der Volksokratike, 5th edition, 1934, and reprints. The interpretative commentary is designed to explicate the often difficult wording of the Greek, rather than summarize the body of philological study which has been devoted to Heraclitus over the last 200 years. The Greek is absolutely necessary for serious study of Heraclitus, and this edition, with all the fragments in a topical order, let us look at Heraclitus in one authentic location. The thought of this Greek philosopher from Aristotle, first called the Obscure, has exerted an important influence on modern thinking about a wide variety of subjects, including religion, the nature of the universe, the concept of the continuum, and other points some of which have not yet been sufficiently fathomed. I encourage you to proceed with slow and careful reading. The way of the Logos. Although this Logos is eternally valid, yet men are unable to understand it, not only before hearing it, but even after they have heard it for the first time. This is to say, although all things come to pass in accordance with this Logos, men seem to be quite without any experience of it, at least if they are judged in the light of such words and deeds as I am here setting forth according to its nature, and to specify how it behaves. Other men, on the contrary, are as unaware of what they do when awake as they are when asleep. As soon as one starts to deal with the Greek and the submeanings of the original wording, the above translations becomes cloudy and perhaps weak. Yet it will serve as an entry text to serve as ancilla to the Greek, which has the through way into understanding the mind of Heraclitus. It is interesting that Aristotle, in discussing this passage, raises the grammatical question of whether the word always ia goes with what is before it, the eternal Logos, or after it, as always failed to understand. But this is just the first of myriad questions about this fecund passage, which has occupied the best classical and philosophical wits for centuries. Distinguishing things according to the nature sounds much like Aristotle's approach to data, starting from observation and use rather than from ideal pattern, but is better aligned with use of the word physius by the early philosophers. 2. We should let ourselves be guided by what is common to all. Yet, although the Logos is common to all, must men live as if each of them had a private intelligence of his own. 2. We should let ourselves be guided by what is common to all. Yet, although the Logos is common to all, must men live as if each of them had a private intelligence of his own. 3. Men who love wisdom should acquaint themselves with a great many particulars. Heraclitus stresses particulars and fact, but in the next statement he maintains that accumulation of fact do not confer wisdom or gnome. Why this odd difference of point of view? because both are relevant and important. Information is, of course, essential, but as it is assembled, it becomes a static corpus and possible encumbrance to the thinker and philosopher, even as full philological documentation of opinions on these fragments of Heraclitus can obscure the words of the statements. 4. Seekers after gold dig up much earth and find little. What could be a better description of meaning, whether gold or uranium, or the continuing process of serious scientific research? Much labor, often no or few returns. That is the nature of the investigation of new ideas. 5. Let us not make arbitrary conjectures about the greatest matters. But the world is replete with arbitrary views, not only in the world of history, politics, and theology, but forever in academy, where they work against the nature of search after truth. 6. Much learning does not teach understanding. Otherwise, it would have taught Hesiod and Pythagoras, Xenophanes and Hecataeus. Anyone who has spent time in higher education will be painfully aware of the learned views which go nowhere and shed no light at all. All those possible points of view which fill the pages of learned journals crowd the path to understanding. Yet, knowing much is also something Heraclitus stresses, so we are caught between the jaws of ignorance and encyclopedism. 7. Of those whose discourses I have heard, there is not one who attains to the realization that wisdom stands apart from all else. Of those whose discourses I have heard, there is not one who attains to the realization that wisdom stands apart from all else. The problem of distinguishing knowledge from wisdom is with us forever. Our college courses teach knowledge of many things, but the wisdom which comes from education seems to be more of a personal and even spiritual nature than a result of accumulation and accreditation. Can students be denied a top grade because they lack wisdom, or is this considered a transcendental factor couched in mental talent or thought by experience in life? 8. I have searched myself. These two words speak volumes. Self-examination is the hardest thing to do, something Freud had to learn slowly, and he spent much of his life doing just this. It is not a simple truism that the unsearched life is not life at all. 8. I have searched myself. These two words speak volumes. Self-examination is the hardest thing to do, something Freud had to learn slowly, and he spent much of his life doing just this. It is not a simple truism that the unsearched life is not life at all. 9. It pertains to all men to know themselves and to be temperate. 10. To be temperate is the greatest virtue. Wisdom consists in speaking and acting the truth, giving heed to the nature of things. The Greek word sophrosyne is hard to define, since it comes from the adjective seus, safe, and front, mind. It points to a mind which is well-centered and thoughtful, balanced and poised for intelligent judgments. English temperate, from Latin temperatus, as moderate, is much more complicated, going back to Latin tempus, time, the right time, season, and the English core of the word points to being in touch with an external situation, whether season, social setting, or proper time for a given action. But the English word has other associations, such as temperance, as avoidance of alcohol, temper, as ire and anger, backs well adjusted, harpist chord playing well-tempered variations, and even the blacksmith carefully drawing the temper of overly hard, quenched steel. The Greek has none of these external associations. It is self-centered and a business of the mind, which when held in sane stance will be the proper tool for thought.